things.
They do. They do indeed. Alright, and we're live. And it's not showing anything. Why aren't you showing anything? Hey, there we go. Forgot about the delay.
Cool.
So, hello everyone. I got Corporal Soderling with me for this live stream. Oh, this is awesome. We got a, trying to see how long our delay is real quick. So we got 1939 Shitza, got Micronation. Mary Gerlach, we got Gaslight. Middle of an officers meeting in Brandon F's Discord server. So yeah, we got about almost a 1 minute delay apparently. So, well, Gaslight, we're probably gonna do this for an hour or two as normal. So, I'm sure you'll be able to catch at least some of it. Hey, what's going on, Irish? So yeah, kind of usual standard live stream. If you guys got questions for myself, Corporal Soderling, just, you know, if it's one for both of us, just type the question. If it's one for either of us, can you just give us each your name? Can we turn up the volume?
And I can't see the chat, only Ethan can.
Oh, yeah, hang on, let me fix
For now.
let me fix the audio here. It's gonna look really weird, but alright, is that better? Hopefully. I'm gonna try to work the audio capture here real quick. Okay, that should be a lot better. Hopefully you guys can hear it now. Okay, cool. So, Christopher, how's it going? So, James, you might be able to see the chat if you get the stream up on your end.
I do. It's weird with the delay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, so what's with the background? I just have a sheet hanging up behind me. I get a really bad ADD doing these live streams, and I'll see, like, something on my bed, and, like, we'll just kind of stare off at it, so... Irish, I am in isolation. You know, we're all quarantined. We're supposed to be staying inside, so I made myself a lovely little blanket fort in my room. I'll kind of turn it around a little bit. So got that. So mostly it's for my own well-being. Like I said, I get ADD doing these live streams at times, so. Micronation, those are a 1865 issue SteelSeries 5 headsets, so. Let's see here. Christopher, so Company D, we are our own sharpshooter group here in Washington, so there's no like full-size regiment or anything like that. Be terrifying if there was, because I'd probably be in a staff position just like James would be, and we don't want to do that. Staff is icky.
Yeah.
Let's see. So are you getting the chat thread popping up as soon as the questions come up, James, or?
I have no idea what the timing on all of this is.
Let's see. So Wade just posted one saying, "Love your videos. You guys are doing a great job. Congratulations." So, thank you. Did you just see the one by Rev Jeremy come up?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, cool. So yeah, you're pretty much at least up to speed with that.
So the chat's live and the video's like 45 seconds.
Yep, thereabouts.
Cool.
So Rev, they're original set of headphones. Yeah, James, if you want to take the next question, we'll just trade off on them, I guess, unless there's one specifically for either of us.
Okay. Do either of us reenact any other war? I don't. My wife would kill me. She has said many times that she would kill me. I've always toyed with the idea of Spanish American or First World War, but for now I just do American Civil War. And that's it.
I dabble with World War II German here and there, so yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yep.
Let's see.
How many bars have been canceled? Well, we were planning on going to Chancellorsville this coming May, and the National Park Service shut that one down.
Yep.
I don't think that our Washington State Club has officially canceled anything quite yet because it doesn't start till the end of May, but I know they're talking about it.
Yep, kind of just seeing how things go. I know Washington just pushed a new stay-at-home order to May 4th, but that's about it. So, nothing quite yet. 1860s color video webcam. Wow, those are quite rare, I hear. They are. And we have a couple of them, so, you know, high value stuff we got. Any more news on the Discord, Irish? Yes, we do have the Discord up and running. It's been up for about a week. Yeah, James, I still need your Discord info so I can add you to it.
Okay.
It's Second U.S. Sharpshooters. Hopefully this doesn't bring up the Discord on chat. Come on, pop up. Yeah, just Second U.S. Sharpshooters. Let's see what the nickname is. Yeah. Let's see. I'll see if I can find the... Yep, so Second U.S. Sharpshooters channel Discord is the server name. It should be open and public, so hopefully everyone can find it. Definitely should be, and we have 11 members, so it's pretty awesome. Got all sorts of little sub threads and all that in it, so. But yeah, I like it so far. I already run a couple Discord servers, so it's just trying to figure out roles and stuff for people is always kind of the fun part.
I'll mess with it later.
See. Oops. Whoa. What is going on? There we go. Yeah, it should be public because people found it already without me inviting them, so. Whew. Yeah, Irish, that'll work. That'll definitely work. Dylan Williams, how are you guys enjoying your lockdown? James, how are you enjoying your lockdown?
Well, my spring break from university led right into it, So I'm over it now. I had already spent a week by myself, and I was pretty much immediately fed up with it.
Makes sense. As for me, I've just been gaming and working on projects like knapsacks. So
Yeah, I've been gaming, and I already had 3 D&D groups running, so I've just been spending more time on those, and I've been doing some music research, and I found a couple new songs that I'm going to try to learn if I can find the discipline to do anything other than play video games.
the great trap of time, video games.
Yeah.
See here. Captain, have ever been offered a battalion position like Major or Lieutenant Colonel? I've been offered Adjutant, and I've fallen in as Adjutant and as a Brevet Major before. That was actually my first year as Captain, so that was loads of fun. In New York, do you know of any regiments for the Civil War? Yeah, there's quite a few. I don't know any off the top of my hand, Mary, but if you just kind of do Civil War reenacting in New York, something like that, it should easily pop up some links to groups there for you. Let's see, Dustin Bell, love your guys' videos. Thank you so much for the likes on ours. Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Irish, sweet. I'll get you taken care of here once the stream is done. Guy Nemmer 53. Nice to see I'm not the only on semi uniform rocking my new Dirty Billy Type 1. Nice. Hell yeah. Yeah, as soon as I started the Skype call with James here, it he's wearing his forge cap and fatigue blouse. I'm like, all right, I guess I can't be the only one wearing just normal clothes here, so just threw the frock and kepi on. Gotta look good.
Yeah.
Charles McKnight, how's it going? See, have either of you heard of War of Rights? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be a reenactor, or at least a younger reenactor, without hearing about War of Rights. So.
Yeah, I supported them on Patreon back when that was still going on. I haven't really gotten into the game itself. I'm not in a Mountain Blade group, so that kind of limits my options.
A little bit.
But last time I checked, I still have Company D of the 2nd USSS reserved, but it's been a few months since I checked to see if I still had that.
We might be able to start something up for it. That'd be fun. Let's see here. Much love and respect from West Tennessee. Dustin, where in West Tennessee? I have a family that still lives in Western Tennessee. The refrigerator has become my best friend. That and Postmates for me. Let's see. Do you have any new video ideas in the works on your channel? Yeah, I got a couple that I know Jared definitely has a few. I'm sure James has a few that we'd be more than happy to eventually record and get out there. So, all in good time.
Yeah, all in good time.
See, thanks for that. We'll have to try and fly out and see you guys in the field when all this is over. Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun. We have a few subscribers here in Washington, and they kind of realized, oh my God, like you guys are,
in Washington.
We're like,
find us at events before.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird.
A little bit. It's like we're not, we're just a bunch of clowns that reenact the Civil War. Like we're not celebrities, but people kind of act like we are. It's like, it's a little odd, but it's cool. Do you have a historical question? Why was the cap you were two wearing so popular for frontline action? So, James, you want to take the forge cap question, and I'll answer about the kepi?
Sure. So I can give it a spin at least.
I'll help you out
for
if need be.
Volunteers, this is the only hat they were given, which pretty much sets it right there. Some units especially regulars, had the option of having a dress hat, a hardy hat, and they're big and they're more fragile. And if you've got a whole bunch of shiny hat brass and big feather plumes, that gets you shot at. So they'd at least take those off. Civilian and hardy hats were more popular in the Western theater, simply because the weather there was harsher and the wide brim hat was appreciated. But for the most part, it was what you were given was a forge hat. And that was pretty much your only option unless your company or your whoever commanding officer would allow civilian hats. Not all of them did. Not everyone paid attention to being told they could or not, but that's about it.
Yeah, pretty much. The forge cap was your fatigue cap, basically. So, like James said, the hardy was your dress hat, and not everyone got them. Yeah, if you even got one. There were some militia, like the Iron Brigade, they were known as the Black Hats because they had hardy hats. So for kepis, being an officer, you have to buy your own uniform. It wasn't issued to you, and a lot of them went for the very stylish kepi. So mine has all the fancy braids, captain's braid on it, everything like that. But officers also opted to wear forage caps similar to what James is wearing, which is the McDowell-brimmed style forage cap.
So this hat, at least for our company, wouldn't have been a issue hat either. It would have been the more traditional flat billed hat.
Yep.
So this is, I didn't know what I was doing when I bought it, but we can say it's private purchase. But it was just a mispurchase on my behalf back when I got into this company.
Yeah, I mean, and, corporal's pay, you get a little bit more money, so, you can afford a fancier hat.
One more thought on hats. I read this somewhere, probably on Authentic Campaigner, but I don't really remember where. This is not necessarily all my own idea. But so most soldiers during the Civil War were volunteers. They weren't regulars. They were citizen soldiers, militia. We call them National Guard now. But a lot of them were proud of the fact that they were civilians and citizens first and militiamen second. So that accounts for a lot of the preference towards wearing civilian style hats. Is if you want to be seen as a soldier, you wear a military style hat. If you want to be seen as a civilian, wear a civilian style hat. Headgear was very, very important to how someone wanted to be perceived back in the 1860s, 1800s in general. So a hat says a lot about the person wearing it. And if somebody wants to be a civilian, they're a civilian soldier, they wear a civilian hat.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense. So, let's see here. I lost spot in where we are. Guy Nemmer. Yeah, so I have those drawers done. I just think there's one person in the company that can use them. I just haven't met up with them yet. So, but yes, thank you so much again for those. Fun little project to keep me busy for about a day. Let's see. Grim Titan, salute from Gettysburg. So weird all these events from henceforth in this area are closed. Never seen the area this empty. That's sad. Especially since, tourist season's starting to kick up. Especially in that area.
Yeah, we were really looking forward to going back east next month, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, sadly. Let's see. It would be awesome if it ever worked out for y'all to come down here and fight with us in West Tennessee, especially Parker's Crossroads or Shiloh. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Might be able to work it out one of these days when we all have
enough money for secondary impressions.
Yeah. which is a goal eventually one day, but just nothing yet. Let's see. Wade. I've seen shorter sack coats with lots of buttons, and people call them roundies. Was this an officer jacket, or would privates have worn them too? So there were some field-altered sack coats to look more like a jacket. Jackets during the Civil War were fairly popular, especially with the Confederate Army. You had your Richmond depots, your Columbus depot, um, commutation jackets, things like that. And there were some jackets made in the north, but a lot of them were private purchase, especially in the officers. With the sharpshooter specifically, after 1864, when a lot of the veterans re-enlisted, there's a lot of jackets, both privates or enlisted men and officers both wearing jackets. Kind of a neat look. Even some of them even had veteran stripes on their cuffs, which would be awesome to do one day.
Yeah, I did some reading on veteran stripes a while ago, specifically in the company. I think it was an article that Dan Wamba shared. And frock coats were the ones that got the veteran stripes usually, and a sack coat wouldn't have them.
Sounds about right. So, and a jacket being a little more formal between a frock and a sack would be pretty par for the course. Let's see. I hope they don't cancel the Irish Brigade at Gettysburg this year. Didn't get to do the 155th Gettysburg. I hope they don't cancel any more events, period, no matter where people are. It's too fun of a hobby to stay out of. Alex Fine, love you guys. Thanks, man. We appreciate the love. That nice check from the government will help with a second impression. Maybe. I'm going to pay off some bills with mine. Maybe
first and last on a new apartment for me.
There you go. Who knows? I might buy a Whipple hat and then throw the rest at bills. Love the content on the channel. Thank you. From Small Town Machine Shop. See, a family member of mine knew I did reenacting and thought I could help, so they bought a canteen. However, it's out of plastic. In the situation, you just have to say thanks and leave. Yeah, I've had that happen a few times. So
I have a Spanish-American War cartridge box from my late grandmother. I have no idea what to do with it.
Keep it, You might end up doing Spanish-American War someday.
Yeah.
Get a 30-40 Craig.
I just want a 30-40 Craig.
I mean, yeah.
Side.
Yeah. See, I'm supposed to be at our local maple syrup festival. This was going to be its last hurrah after 36 years in my company, or my unit, Company C, 63rd, Pennsylvania. I've been there every year. Damn, that sucks. Hey, Mark S., Company B, 2nd U.S. Sharpshooters out of Michigan. What's going on? Let's see. Christopher Busby. How much on average would an officer and NCO get paid if they were expected to buy more expensive things? So officers were required to buy their stuff. If they couldn't buy it themselves, they could buy it things from the quartermaster, so they could have some enlisted gear, things like that. Canteens, drawers, shirts was more in knapsacks was the common things bought. If I'm recalling right, captains were paid $115 a month. NCOs, it varied. Your private made $13 a month. Corporals would have been about $15. Sergeants was $18, and I believe first sergeants was upwards of $25. But for them, they were issued their gear. It was taken out of their pay, just how the normal military
an allowance system, wasn't it?
Yep, they were.
Yeah, so if you overdraw, you pay for it out of your pay, and if you underdraw, you get the difference.
Yep. So, however, if they bought something private purchase, that was their own money. There's really no way to tell how much a jacket private purchase cost, things like that. So, those different people, different makers, different tailors, everything like that. So I love a video about Hiram Berdan. I would love to know more about his relationship with his regiment, military career, battles, and personal life, etc. Yeah, I'm already working up kind of a video outline / script teleprompter kind of thing that I can work on with that. So, because he had a very interesting career and very interesting relationship with both regiments of sharpshooters, and I would love to delve into that. I'm James would agree. I'm not a very big fan of Hiram Burdan. If that uh, gives some insight as to his relationship with the sharpshooters.
Most of his staff officers spent most of their free time trying to get him court-martialed and vice versa.
Yeah, so that'll definitely be a great video to do. Expect a rather long one on that. Let's see, so I got a question. Who besides Wamba and White makes good quality federal issue drawers? Everyone seemed to use cotton muslin. I want cotton flannel. Let's see. I believe I saw Jarnigan being listed. Yeah, Jarnigan does do some good drawers. God, there's a lot of makers out there that do them. Beauregard's Taylor on Facebook, I believe, also does drawers similar to Wamba's. So definitely try and check him out. If you got Facebook, do a search on there. What is the funniest thing you've seen an artilleryman do? Exist.
Got a couple stories if you want specific ones.
Yeah, we got quite a few.
So just at our last Memorial Day weekend last year, there were two specific hats. We're going to go after something other than the red end of the shirts and the not wearing uniforms.
I know where this one's going.
There was one artilleryman who was a younger woman she had the reversible coat. So on one side it's a Union coat, on the other side it's a Confederate coat. And she decided that the best way to deal with not having to worry about a headgear change was not to go with a civilian hat, but to just wear a Confederate kepi.
Yep.
So blue coat, gray kepi. That was a good one.
Yeah, that's probably got to be one of my favorite ones. Or
that's probably one of the best.
God, what was it? Deep Creek a couple of years ago. We were shooting how to sew something onto your unit information on your canteen, and for some reason these artillerymen were marching around going 1, 2, 3, 4. I love the artillery corps, and she's like, what? No, stop. Why?
One time we managed to come across one of the younger artillerymen, probably there on a pay to play. He was wandering through our camp, I think, and we asked him why no one in his battery ever wore coats or even had coats to wear. And the answer was, it is too hot to wear uniform coats.
And it was only like 75 degrees out.
It was only 75 degrees.
So, yeah. I mean, James and I, we've been to events where it's nearing 100 and we're still, wearing frocks with, shirts on underneath, and we still get the coats on, so. Let's see, I gotta get caught up here. Been with the company for 5 years.
Know why you shaved.
Work. Yeah, I was forced to shave because of work, but it's slowly coming back. It's slowly coming back since I quit that job, so I can grow my magnificent mustache out again. So we'll all be seeing it again here shortly. My hair grows rather quickly, which sucks because barbershops are closed right now, and I'm less than a month in from my last haircut, and I already feel like a shaggy dog.
I had been planning on getting my hair cut, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to get my hair cut this weekend, and then they closed all the barbershops.
Bummer.
If anyone remembers, my hair used to be down to about here, and I would cut it up to here for reenacting season. But I have decided to go for a more authentic haircut. There's really no excuse not to, other than I didn't want to.
Yeah, I can agree with that. My hair, when James and I first met years and years ago through reenacting when he was with a Marine unit, I mean, my hair was shaggy dog looking, the high school kids, so it, had to fit in with that. Let's see here. Alex, yep, I will definitely be covering how Hiram Berdan got his colonel's commission. So, Mark S. Question: you know where I can find gators in the knapsacks? That's the only thing I don't have yet, and I have a hard time finding them. Well, Mark, you're talking to the right people because I make Berdan packs. And currently working on getting the pattern finalized for the leggings as well. So if you go to our website, it's secondusss.com. My email is on there. Please feel free to shoot me an email, and we can chat a lot more about getting you kitted out with a Berdan pack and some leggings, so you can completely look the part.
So I saw a question about equivalent purchase power of money. What did you say a captain's pay was, Ethan?
If I recall right, it was about 115.
So that's roughly equivalent to about $3,000 a month today.
Wow.
And then corporal was, I'm terrible with these numbers. What was it again?
I believe it was 15.
So $15 is just about $400 now.
$400 now?
430-ish.
Oh, wow.
And then a private was making about $375 a month.
Dear
so
God.
Less than modern minimum wage for sure.
Yeah. You know, my numbers could also be off. I'm just trying to remember that right off the top of my head, but
the pay for private sounds right. That one's easy.
Just a sec. I'm getting an invite sent off. Okay. There we go. Let's see. Women cavalry with painted nails. Yeah, that. I remember Long Hair Boy. Is there any good artillery unit out there? I know the Liberty Rifles. They can pull off a pretty good artillery impression back east. Could you guys do a video about facial hair and regular hair in general? What was acceptable, what wasn't? Yeah, I think we could easily do that.
Just generally, for hair, I can talk about that really quick if we want.
Yeah.
So facial hair, pretty much anything goes.
Yeah.
If anyone's ever seen Thoreau, the poet, it's a terrifying sight. And that was not uncommon. It was definitely not as, I mean, you see people with big facial hair today. It was not at all that orderly often. People had worse nutrition, so their hair came in frizzier.
Yeah.
And then for head hair, that varies a lot depending on age. People who were in their 30s and 40s would probably have their hair coming down to about here. That was popular when they were young. And then people in their 20s and younger would have had their hair pretty short. Mine's even too long now.
Yeah, probably
with a side part.
Probably something like this. Granted, got hat hair, but fairly short, kind of like mine.
Yeah.
Would be,
and side part, never center part.
Yeah. Which is good because I got an awesome scar on my head. It's more of a dent, so that's kind of where a part line starts for me anyway.
Actually, the side part versus center part is how you can tell the difference in an old photograph between a boy child and a girl child, because they'll be wearing the same clothes usually if they're young enough. But
yeah, absolutely. Let's see here.
I've also seen both sides parted, but I don't know what sort of age group that would be for.
I would have to do some research on it myself. Let's see. Mark, we're located in Washington State, Oregon, Idaho, and have a couple members in Montana. How many Big Macs could you buy in 1862? If Mickey D's was around in 1862, probably a lot. So they weren't in it for the money, apparently. To an extent, no. I mean, there were some bounties. Say you enlist, you were promised $300 upon enlistment. So you guys had, or you had guys who would enlist in a regiment, get paid $300, desert, join another regiment, get paid $300, desert, and they were called bounty jumpers.
And looking at our own enlistment records, there were probably 10 or 15 people who enlisted and deserted within a month.
Yeah.
And a lot of those were within a week or two of enlisting. So those would probably be bounty jumpers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maine was very, very generous.
Yeah, just almost to a fault. Do you write with pen and ink or just pencil? How about you?
I have a pen that I bought. I don't have a period accurate pen, but I've been learning how to write with a dip pen. But at an event, I just have a pencil stuffed in my pocket. It's a lot easier.
Yeah. Personally, I do both, just kind of depending if I want to spend the time to mix the ink with powder and all that. So. And
yeah, it's mostly a time thing. If I'm writing something down on my NCO notebook, I use a pencil.
Oh, absolutely.
That would be a mess. I don't want to carry ink around in my pocket.
Yeah. Let's see. Watching all the way from Denmark. Hey, what's going on?
That's cool.
Brett Hackett, hello. How's it going? Guy Nemmer, saw a guy with a long blonde ponytail running past at Remembrance Day. I call him Private Petty. Start singing, "Don't come around here no more."
Don't come around here no more.
Oh, that's awesome. Brett, awesome question. Did Berdan sharpshooters wear different clothing besides green? Did any Berdan sharpshooters, to your knowledge, desert their
blue right now? So
yeah. Yeah, so they basically wore a mixture, all green, a mixture of blue and green, be it, the green frock, blue trousers, or green trousers, blue sack coat. Early war issue, they only wore it up until the spring of 1862. They were issued a gray seamless felt overcoat and the gray Whipple hat to kind of blend in more with kind of the winter surroundings, the glum of winter, I guess is the best way to describe it. So yeah, they wore a mixture of pretty much everything at almost any one time. There was almost no uniformity at any one time with the sharpshooters. They kind of just wore whatever they could get.
Yeah. Towards the end of the war, Petersburg time, they started looking very raggedy. Sharpshooters would be spending so much time out away from the company that they would miss uniform issuings and have to wear whatever they could find, pretty much.
Civilian clothing actually became fairly popular.
So they wore everything except for green for most of the war.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a few times where they were actually wearing all green, but it was few and far in between. Yeah,
their green uniform parts were issued twice, I think.
Yeah, in full, twice.
In full.
Yeah, quite a few sharpshooters deserted. The most famous one was William Green. He was kind of a whiner. I actually have his compilation of diary entries, and younger man, never away from home before, and deserted, and then wondered why, when he came back to his company, why he was kind of an outcast. It's like, well, what do you think?
Yes, deserting was very, very common. I mentioned before that volunteers were citizen soldiers. Most of them were farmers, and they weren't used to military life. And the general impression was, oh, it's harvest time. I need to go home and harvest. I'll just be back in a couple months. And sometimes that went well, and sometimes it went very, very not well for them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We had more than one person in our company who ended up It says returned from desertion, and that's probably what happened.
Yeah.
Is they decided they just leave for a month or two to go home and harvest, and then come back and see what happened. I'm looking for. I have a number of people who deserted from the company if I can find it.
Well, he's doing that. I'll answer Brett's question. Do you know what they called Confederate sharpshooters besides Confederate sharpshooters? Sharpshooters, the palmetto sharpshooters, like Christopher just said. Some of them, some Confederate sharpshooters kind of took on a British term for them, calling themselves rifles here and there. So, and when did military sharpshooters begin to be referred to as snipers? Roughly around the First World War was when it became kind of a common term from sharpshooter to sniper. Even though there is still medals awarded in the military today as a sharpshooter. Just means that you're a better shot.
I have 9 desertions.
Just from Company D?
From Company D.
There you go.
We can shame people if we want to. They're long dead.
I'm sure they had their reasons.
Yes. Well, some of them are bounty jumpers.
Well, yeah. And for that, shame on them. Let's see, why was there never a 3rd Regiment U.S. Sharpshooters? Wasn't Heimberdam pretty hell-bent on getting his stars? Yeah, there was actually stores of frock coats, trousers, leggings, and all that actually mistakenly got issued to the 203rd Pennsylvania that should have gone to a 3rd Regiment of Sharpshooters. And Heimberdam was actively trying to get a 3rd Regiment going so he could lead a brigade. In fact, he had a brigadier general set of shoulder boards made with a green field, much like my captain's bars are. But it just, they couldn't get the numbers for a 3rd Regiment.
They never even filled out the 2nd Regiment, really.
Yeah, there were 2 companies that were supposed to go or come from Massachusetts, but they disliked Heimberdam so much that they kind of gave them the old bird and just fell in as independent companies with the 22nd and 18th Massachusetts, I believe. Did sharpshooters ever have a turn in the Civil War from being popular? Yeah, Berdan's sharpshooters were actually fairly popular during the Civil War. They were always in newsprints. They were followed pretty closely by war correspondents.
Not as close as the Zouaves, but...
Yeah, not as close as the Zouaves, but
best.
When you're wearing bright red MC Hammer pants, you're going to catch a little bit more attention. But, for some reason, the sharpshooters kind of fell out of popularity after the Civil War, which is kind of a shame. Where do you guys do a lot of your research? I'm trying to find more on the Irish Brigade, specifically the 69th New York. Books, that's pretty much the biggest resource you can utilize is books.
And try your state archives.
Oh yeah, the state archives would be, especially for the 69th New York. I mean, that's a fairly...
famous regiment, a lot of information on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Old Hiram sounds like an ass. Yeah, he was an ass.
Yeah, that was the general impression.
He was definitely an ass. Again, I'll have to cover that in a video. I always wondered what you did when you deserted, especially if you were a Union soldier deserting down south. Where would you go?
Most of the time, before a firing squad.
Yeah, that's, you have rear guards, you have your supply train, things like that. If you're on campaign, deserters would get caught pretty quickly. Granted, on campaign, there isn't, at least that I found, much on deserting and desertions, so...
They are down south. There is nowhere for them to go, so they don't bother leaving.
Yeah. I have a lot of questions about the sharpshooters, so forgive the spam. No, I mean, this is what we're doing this for, is to answer questions. See, in Hudson, Michigan, the Historical Museum has a great collection of Berdan sharpshooter documents, photos, and personal stories from the man. or from the men. That's awesome. I definitely need to get to Michigan sometime and check that stuff out. Be a lot of fun.
It would.
In fact, I'm going to grab a glass of water real quick. So if you want to field the questions, James, I will be back in just a second.
The reason that the 1st and 2nd regiments were in 2 different parts of the battlefield at Gettysburg. So Berdan's big grand master plan was to be able to lead a whole battalion or a whole brigade of sharpshooters, 1st and 2nd together. That usually didn't happen. It more often than not didn't happen, actually. So sharpshooters were used as skirmishers, and as just to see, Ethan's not here, and now I can't think.
Oh, I'm here. I just got my water.
Okay, so yeah, everyone wanted some sharpshooters, and they were lucky to be able to fight a whole company together, because every company commander, every regimental commander wants a couple sharpshooters to skirmish for him. So they were always separated simply because there were not very many light infantry regiments and a lot of need for light infantry regiments. Pretty much.
Yeah. So, like James said, it's, oh, hey, we have a pesky artillery battery here, or we're getting some sharpshooters, Confederate sharpshooters, taking pot shots at us over here. We need we need some Berdans over here. It's just pretty much we need you when we need you, and then your work is low and underhanded, so go crawl back under the rock from whence you came once we're done with you, kind of mentality.
Yeah. Regimental colors. They did have regimental colors. So most northern regiments would have had a national, which is the American flag, and then a regimental, which is going to be their state flag usually, or their state seal on a blue background. But they'd leave one in storage, and they usually left the regimental colors in storage and kept the nationals with them. So yes, the sharpshooters did have one flag for each regiment that they would carry around with them specifically. And we actually have a reproduction. The original is at West Point right now. And we had a guy go in there and look at it and reproduce the colors for us. And that was really, really cool.
Yeah. Gettysburg, though, they did use both colors with the 2nd Regiment. Colonel Oates was noted when he was assaulting the 20th Maine on Little Round Top. He looked in his rear and he saw 2 stands of colors approaching his rear. Because basically they were effectively surrounded. And he thought it was 2 new regiments coming up, but it was just Lieutenant Colonel Stoughton and the 2nd who split two companies. One that had the regimentals, one that had the nationals. And it's partly why they gave up trying to storm Little Round Top, but Chamberlain's not going to say that at all in any of his writings. Deserting and reenacting terms is being tired and acting like you died. Yeah, more or less. If I ever make it to Michigan, oh yeah, I'd love to collaborate with Will Eichler. That'd be awesome. Let's see. Hey, what's going on, Jonathan?
So
just got off work to do more work. What year were sharpshooters issued to join both armies? Brett, could you clarify just a little bit? Are you talking about Confederate and Union sharpshooters, or just the Union sharpshooters, I guess?
So a lot of regiments have that one engagement that sticks out in their collective memory where they got badly mauled, such as 5th New York at 2nd Bull Run. Did this sort of mauling ever happen to the 1st or 2nd?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Antietam was really bad. And the 4th of July, 1863 was really bad for the sharpshooter, for a 2nd Regiment at least, for Company D specifically.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, we lost
4 guys,
yeah, including the first sergeant.
including the first sergeant. And that was after taking 1 casualty in all of Gettysburg, or 1 fatality in all of Gettysburg. And then the day after, they turn around and lose a lot of people for a company that had 20 people at the time.
Yeah. And the reason why Antietam was so bad, especially for the second, was they were used as line infantry. So they did not fight in skirmish order. And the Confederates, at least from what I presume, saw, oh, hey, we know about the Berdan sharpshooters. Those guys are wearing green. And all those guns got focused on them. But 2nd Regiment also dished out quite a bit of punishment to the 2nd and 7th South Carolina.
Yeah.
And I believe a Louisiana regiment as well.
And then I'm looking at the Excel spreadsheet I have here. It looks like 3 people were killed at the Wilderness, from the company at least. So that probably wasn't too much fun either.
No. Did the sharpshooters ever hang with us 14th Brooklyn boys on Culp's Hill? Unfortunately not. They were in Pitzer's Woods and Little Round Top for nearly the entire battle. Some of them were near the stone wall at Pickett's Charge. I believe Company F, since Wyman White writes about it quite a bit.
You're right. That is a fun story. So First Sergeant Kep has the Diary of Wyman White. As I understand it, it's a very rare, hard to find book. But it talks about, so Company F was at the stone wall on the 3rd day, Gettysburg. And he has, Wyman White wrote a little story in his diary about a Confederate sharpshooter that was sniping at the Union line near Company F during Pickett's charge. Every time an officer would stand up, he'd get shot in the head.
Yep.
And so one of the sharpshooters is trying to see the Confederate sniper. Can't see him. He sees a general riding out in the open and just does this little kind of squat run over to him and says, "General, may I have your field glasses?" And you don't just walk up to a general and ask him for anything if you're a lowly little private. The general looks at him for a second, realizes he's a sharpshooter, hands him the field glasses. And then the sharpshooter does a low run back over to where he was hiding from behind the wall and just kind of looks where he would be if he was sniping at their line, sees a muzzle flash, gets his rifle ready, sees another muzzle flash, returns fire, and there's no way to know if he hit the guy or not, but the sniper stopped shooting at them, so he at least scared him off, and then he just ran the glasses back over to the general that he borrowed them from. So, yes, there were a couple sharpshooters, one company at least, at the stone wall during Pickett's charge.
Yeah, I know they were kind of interspersed. That actually kind of plays into a question that I saw. Why did they stay on Little Round Top the whole battle? It wasn't the whole battle, just July 2nd and 3rd. They stayed within the vicinity of Little Round Top and then extended to the north, up to the stone wall.
It's hard to track entire regiments of the sharpshooters during a battle. You really have to pay attention to what individual companies, because there was no reason that they'd be anywhere close to each other.
Yeah, they were all kind of interspersed along the Union line. Again, they were needed in certain areas, so you had companies every which way. Joshua Bale, was there any sharpshooter Union regiments in the Western Theater? There were some. They were more not used as sharpshooters, but as skirmishers. Like the 66th Illinois, also known as Burgess sharpshooters, they were issued these guys. They had Henry repeating rifles, so little 44-40 Henry cartridge is not going to fly very far like a Sharps would, but for close-in skirmishing and everything like that, a Henry would be perfect for that kind of duty. But there were some that had target rifles, things like that, but there were more independent companies attached to regiments, things like that. So, let's see, Jared A. Been out of the hobby for a while. What are the big events nowadays? I mean, you're still your big ones: Cedar Creek, Gettysburg, everything like that. But there's also a lot of smaller private events being thrown by kind of the more authentic crowd, I guess one could say. See, Captain Whitehall, how hard is it, or how hard is the Wamba and White pants kit to sew? I remember you mentioning sewing those together for your regiment in one video, and I'm wondering the difficulty level. It's about the same as the sack coat, just a lot more going through layers, especially in the fly and everything like that. I need to actually order a trouser kit from them so I can do a video on that. I should probably take a mental note. Was there any sharpshooters in the Indian Wars? Not that I know of. From what I understand, the Indian Wars was mostly a very high-speed, high-movement conflict, so cavalry really played more of a role than infantry, and therefore sharpshooters would have. Oh, and Eric, to answer your question, July 4th, 1863, I'll have James field that one since he already kind of led a good way into it.
Okay.
Throw you under the bus a little. You seem bored.
Yeah. So July 4th, 1863. Let's see, I think I gave that book back to... So that was pursuing Lee down to the Potomac River, trying to prevent them from crossing. General Meade's big failure at Gettysburg was not pursuing Lee fast enough. But the sharpshooters are able to move at least a little faster than regular infantry. And I don't know the exact specifics of the circumstance, but I know that they were very heavily engaged on July 4th. And yeah, I don't remember the specifics of it, but it was very heavy fighting, skirmish fighting.
Yeah, basically fighting off or going against Lee's rear guard.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What year were the sharpshooters disbanded? 1865, more specifically in February.
Anyone whose enlistment hadn't run out and wasn't an officer or higher NCO was sent to the 17th Maine for a few months before they disbanded. And everyone from the 17th Maine was sent to the 2nd Maine Artillery.
Yeah, at least from Company D.
From Company D. And they stayed in service until August after the war ended. I believe that was after the war ended.
Yeah, kind of just helping dismantle forts and fortifications. Were the sharpshooters ever called to use their bayonets under fire? Yes, surprisingly, twice. Once in 1862 at Blackburn's Ford to save the 118th Pennsylvania, also known as the Corn Exchange Regiment. And then in 1863 during the Mine Run campaign at the Battle of Auburn. And when the Confederates saw the sharpshooters charging across an open field with fixed bayonets, they broke and ran. Because if the sharpshooters are called to use bayonets, you're damn sure we're going to be using them. Let's see. What's the funniest sharpshooter story from the actual war you have heard of? It's interesting to hear some funny parts of that bloody war.
The story I just told from Gettysburg, I like that one. The Company F. It's a lot better to read it. than me retelling it after not having seen it for over a year. So,
I have a couple. One was Camp of Instruction, since the sharpshooters did not like Berdan very much. Company D was actually the biggest hellraisers
the army.
of the army, especially when it came to Hiram Berdan. They made an effigy of him and then proceeded to burn it in camp and then kick what wasn't burnt around. In fact, Company D scared Hiram Berdan so much with that effigy that he assigned an entire company of Company A of the 1st U.S. to be armed and post guard around his tent, an entire company. And then my other favorite one would have been in 1862. The sharpshooters went almost 5 days without being issued rations. And when their brigade or division commander rode past, they were chanting hardtack at him. And he pulled his pistol out and said, to the next man that shouts hardtack, I will blow a hole in you. And of course, a sharpshooter took that threat and yells out hardtack right in front of him. The general cocks his pistol, aims it at him, to which that general hears an entire regiment of sharpshooters cocking their loaded Sharps rifles and pointing it at him, which he uncocks his pistol, holsters it, and rides away cursing the sharpshooters. Definitely one of my favorite little anecdotes.
Thank you.
Did any sharpshooters get equipped with scopes on the Sharps rifles? They did not, Mark. Only the target rifles would have had scopes on them, unless they were globe sights. The Sharps was their issue rifle. Even today, modern military rifles get put through hell and back, and scopes at the time were very fragile. So being used in frontline duty, those scopes would have been trashed in no time. So unfortunately, no scopes on a Berdan Sharps rifle. However, after the war, if a sharpshooter took his rifle or paid the government for his rifle, then sure, he could get a scope attached, but that's after the war. Going back to one of my questions, when was Union sharpshooters issued to join the Army?
I don't know when the 1st Regiment enlisted, but the 2nd Regiment was mustered into service. Let's see. Most of the enlistments in Company D were from the very first week of November 1861, and I think they were mustered into service either immediately or very, very early in 1862.
Yeah. 1st Regiment...
for the spring campaign.
Yeah, 1st Regiment was mustered in late summer, early fall of 61, and then...
and they served on the peninsula.
Yeah. 2nd Regiment was late fall, early winter of 61.
Yeah.
From what you mentioned, the previous questions, it seems like a company of sharpshooters acts almost as their own regiment. Yeah, absolutely. Going back east to Maine last spring, you can see why a lot of these sharpshooters, especially from the rural states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, they lived on their own a lot. They had to be self-reliant. So you get a bunch of these like-minded individuals from the officer corps down to your lowliest private. These guys were pretty headstrong and knew how to take care of themselves and could act independently as a company. So.
Yes, the sharpshooters threw their bayonets out more than once, I think.
Twice, from what I recall.
They didn't like them.
Yeah, and then they were, the first time they were charged for it, the second time they were charged for it, the privates were, or the enlisted men were, and then they made it the officer's responsibility of, okay, fine, you will have to pay for all these bayonets because you are in charge of all these men. So officers didn't want to, dip into their own pocket for paying for bayonets.
So they put a stop to that.
Very quickly. How did they compare to Confederate sharpshooters? About on par. I've read in some sources Confederate sharpshooters were better shots than the 1st and 2nd U.S. sharpshooters, things like that. I mean, honestly, you would have to go in a time machine and compare the two on the field to really see how things would have played out against the two. Be cool if there was still that show, like Ultimate Warrior or whatever, where you take like a Spartan warrior and a samurai and compare them, things like that. That'd be kind of a cool thing to see.
Yeah.
Last question before I have to leave for the night. What would you say the stereotypical finest hours of the sharpshooters during the war? Gettysburg, honestly, would have been definitely one of their finest hours. Battle of South Mountain, they were used to pretty great effect. And Chancellorsville also would have been one of their highlights. But Gettysburg, absolutely, probably their absolute finest hour.
So, did the fellow Union soldiers despise the sharpshooters? Absolutely, until they were needed.
Yep.
I pulled up a story here that was posted on a Facebook group I'm a part of. It's from Lieutenant Francis Donaldson, 71st Pennsylvania, Yorktown, Virginia, in April of '62. So I never before saw such a set of men as these Berdan sharpshooters. These men speak confidently of killing without the slightest difficulty at a mile distant. The impression left upon the minds of the soldiers by these people is not at all a pleasant one, and as they come out each morning after breakfast, strutting leisurely along, the men look askance and rather shrink from them. Yesterday, 4 of these demons occupied the post with me, and after busying themselves with suitably and satisfactorily adjusting their rifles, sat down to await a victim. They had not long to wait, however, as soon were seen 4 men leaving the enemy's works, who proceeded towards the works on our left, apparently with no thought of danger, at least so early in the day. At their distance, they would have been perfectly secure from our muskets, but they were in easy range for the murderous Berdan rifle. The sharpshooters consulted for a moment, and 3 of them, removing the rearmost support from the rifles, brought them to bear upon the men, and at the word from the 4th, fired. 3 of them dropped instantly, while the 4th, after standing in apparent bewilderment, suddenly fell beside his dead comrades, adjusted their bodies as protection, and stayed there all day long. The enemy immediately opened upon our post, which made it pretty hot, but which in no wise disconcerted the sharpshooters, who, taking advantage of their position, picked the gunners off quite lively. As for my men, they were completely demoralized and driven off by the fire, and took shelter further in the woods. Shortly after firing having ceased, 4 other men bearing stretchers were sent to suddenly relieve the works and approach dead men. I can scarcely bring my pencil to write it, but these inhuman fiends, these vaunted brave Berdan sharpshooters, murdered these poor fellows also. I will add there was a good deal of feeling displayed by my men, and Mr. Rifleman was requested to go somewhere else, as their presence was distasteful.
Yeah, so that's a pretty clear and cut view. The reasoning behind that, too, was, warfare at the time was Napoleonic warfare. So, you stand in line, you fire volley after volley at one another. You don't hide behind rocks and cover and take pot shots at officers because, it's a gentlemanly war. And, clear up until the Vietnam War, snipers were still kind of looked down upon. Speaking with my grandpa about it, he was a sniper with the Marine Corps in Vietnam, and even at times he kind of caught some flack from other Marines that weren't snipers, like, oh, you guys are just a bunch of low and underhanded killers. And my grandpa just smiled and curtly said, why, yes, I am, and I get paid to do it. So sharpshooters and snipers, they're a different breed of human, just because you're hunting other human beings that can shoot you. Ernest Hemingway actually has a really great quote from that. See, why did they trash their bayonets? You want to field that one, James?
Well, who uses a bayonet? Heavy infantry does, line infantry, who are using it to charge the enemy and take ground. If you're enlisted under the promise of being used as elite light infantry, the last thing that you want to do is charge an enemy line to take the ground. So a bayonet was a heavy infantryman's tool, or a heavy infantryman's weapon. And if you go into bayonet range, you're almost guaranteed to get stabbed or shot.
Or
That's
clubbed.
just the nature of... bayonet combat. So they didn't want any part of that. They were promised that they wouldn't be having any part of that. And they were given a bayonet anyway. And they promptly threw them away. So they wouldn't have to have any part of that.
Absolutely. Mark, did any sharpshooters get the Medal of Honor? 2 did. Cassius Peck and Colonel Ripley from the 1st Regiment. Ripley got his at Malvern Hill, and Cassius Peck got his at Blackburn's Ford. He swam across Blackburn's Ford to help rescue the 118th Pennsylvania, captured a couple Confederate guns and some Confederate prisoners. So, kind of a badass. Who is the most highest ranking in the sharpshooters besides Berdan himself? There was quite a few. Ripley was one of them, one I just mentioned, but also Colonel Stoughton and Lieutenant Colonel Casper Trepp, who was probably the most beloved officer during the Civil War with the 1st Regiment sharpshooters. He was
a Swiss career military man.
And a Crimean war vet.
And a Crimean war vet, yeah.
So, and he did not like Berdan and saw through his lies and saw him for what he was, which was a hack.
And I think that did Berdan win the court-martialing war between those two?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they tried court-martialing each other multiple times. In fact, one of my favorite stories is it was almost a nightly occurrence of Trepp and Berdan shouting arguments in Berdan's tent, with Trepp storming out, swearing in German. God, that's awesome. At least to me it is. Question: if captains and companies were very independent, what would the colonel and majors do in battle? Would they lead certain companies, or did they stay in a position and give orders to the companies? A little bit of both. Hi, Mandy. A little bit of both. Usually the colonel or major would try to at least keep some semblance of command over a portion of the regiment. However, it would kind of get broken up very quickly with some battles like Gettysburg.
Berdan's perennial excuse was looking to go find ammunition.
Yeah, he'd always be found in the rear. B for ammunition. That was always his excuse. Did the sharpshooters ever have European advisors? They did not, surprisingly.
Other than Colonel Trepp.
Yeah, which, he was fighting with the regiment. However, there were some advisors and observers that did notice the sharpshooters, and I think my favorite example of that would have been a Prussian advisor saw the sharpshooters, and his quote was saying, "Mein Gott, what are these men with green coats?" Because the Prussians, the French, and the British did have rifle regiments that did also wear green, and my belief is him seeing something similar to that style of uniform being seen here in America surprised him. Probably because he thought we were not a professional army like the Prussians, and, why would kind of a backwater army that kind of the United States Army was at the time kind of...
America wasn't a world power until
turn of the century.
War, really. We kind of did our own thing. Spanish-American War maybe established us as a world power. They started to take us seriously in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, so we were more of a backwater trying to emulate other countries' militaries at the time. Did any sharpshooter companies have different country people, like from Ireland? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I keep opening up the same data, the same spreadsheet. So let's look at country of birth for the 2nd U.S. Sharpshooters D Company. Out of 163, I have no data on 75 men. 70 were from the U.S., 5 from Ireland, 5 from New Brunswick, which was its own colony, independent colony, it wasn't part of Canada at the time, rather. It was its own part of England. 3 from West Canada, 2 from England, 1 from somewhere in Germany, 1 specifically from Hesse, 1 from Nova Scotia, and 1 from Scotland.
So pretty broad spectrum, and that's just one company. That's not counting the other 8 or the other 7 of the second and the 10. Well, there was one regiment called one company called the Swiss Company. That was Company A of the first. They were all Swiss and German.
Yeah.
Pretty much all over. Seems like the sharpshooters were a rowdy bunch from top to bottom of the ranks. Absolutely. They, pardon my French, but they were not known givers of fucks. So they just, they cared when they needed to, and they really didn't care when they didn't need to care. Can you say the name you mentioned earlier that makes good drawers on Facebook? Something Taylor's. Beauregards Taylor. Wade. Hey, what's going on, Red? Also, say hello to Corporal Soderling. He's taking part with this with me as well. So, to hydrogen monoxide.
That's me.
That is an awesome name. I love it. If you gave a historian and a reenactor 2 regiments of men, who would win a battle between both? That's a really good question. It depends on if the historian knows military tactics at the time like the reenactor does.
Yeah.
Because the historian can see the big picture, but the reenactor knows the more inner workings and the ins and outs, or at least should know the inner workings and the ins and outs. How many men did this first and second have? You mentioned they were undermanned because of the 2 Massachusetts companies. In total, if I'm recalling right, throughout the entire Civil War, this is counting new enlistments and everything coming in, there was roughly 2,500 sharpshooters throughout the war of all 4 years. So,
on paper, a regiment has 1,000 men. A company has 100. So the first would have started the war with roughly 1,000 men, and the second started the war with roughly 800. A regiment that's seen any sort of service will usually have 300 to 400 men.
And then by the end of the war, maybe 200.
And maybe 200 by the end of the war.
And,
I know some Confederate regiments surrendered with double digits, low double digits of men in the entire regiment.
60, 80, maybe 100. Yeah, 15. More specifically for the sharpshooters, like at Gettysburg, the 2nd Regiment only numbered 125 sharpshooters. Company D, being the highest, or the company with the most men in it, only had 25. So, and of that 25, I think 15 were from one town in Maine, which was Rockland. So,
the rest were from the rest of Maine.
Yes. Corporal, how are you this fine quarantine?
Well, I spoke about this a little bit at the very beginning, but we got new people now. I was sick of it by the second day because my university spring break led right into it, so I was already quarantining myself for a week beforehand. Lots of video games. I tried making hardtack again. I burnt it. Not sure how I pulled that off. I found a website that I was getting some new music from, so I'm trying to learn a couple more 1850s parlor songs. That's about all I've been doing. I've mostly been playing video games. For better or for worse.
It's a good way to pass the time.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of good questions on this stream.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I got some new glasses. The ones that I usually wear are a little old. They're tail end of the 18th century. So as soon as glasses stores exist again, I'll have these.
Hell yeah. Those look good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Did sharpshooters spend all their time in the north, or have they fought battles down south? No, the sharpshooters strictly fought, or at least the Bredans, strictly fought with the Army of the Potomac. So the farthest they got was...
Richmond.
Yeah, essentially. Favorite video games?
Let's say that restrictions breed creativity. Favorite of what kind of video game? Because that's a really big question.
Yeah. First-person shooters, RTSs, MMOs, survival. So, right off the bat,
I play. I actually don't play anything. I sing. I was learning piano, but I hurt my hand pretty bad, and so now I just sing.
pretty much a good half of our company are pretty decent singers. So,
Yeah.
Even Saracen's getting used to his voice. So
Yeah, he is. I think didn't he join a musical theater thing at his high school?
he did.
Yeah, and then I've been singing since middle school. I'm in my university choir, or at least I was until last semester, because I don't have time. But
Favorite video games? Anything?
see, that doesn't help. Okay, I really, really like Mass Effect. It's one of my very favorites. And the old Knights of the Old Republic games from the early 2000s. And I've been playing Empire Total War or Napoleon Total War on and off for a year or so now. I don't know, what video games do I play? I don't even know.
Let's see, off the top of my head,
Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO.
Oh, there you go. See, off the top of my head, DayZ, Rainbow Six Siege, Empire Total War, Rome Total War. So, good mix.
And then, as to War of Rights, I have an account. I supported them at a pretty high level back when they were on Patreon, but I haven't really had much luck getting into it. I'm not in a Mountain Blade clan, so that kind of limits how that goes.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Thoughts on using original gear in reenactments? For Civil War, maybe muskets and rifles. That's as far as I would take it. World War II, though, the stuff's still relatively newer, so why not?
Yeah, the things you have to pay attention to are the fact that you might have a 160-year-old artifact. It wasn't 160 years old 160 years ago.
Yeah.
So you can't use something that's falling apart or looks like it's 160 years old unless you can clean it up without damaging it. And you really have to weigh what it's worth monetarily and what it's worth as an artifact versus how much it adds to your impression.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you ever played Nation Divided, which is a first-person shooter? I did. I believe that was put on by the History Channel, which, I mean, not historically accurate, but, you know.
Hold on. I think I played that too.
One thing my friend could never do is reenact. He is so blind, his period glasses would look like a brick of glass. That's unfortunate.
I do remember History Divided. That was an interesting game.
Yeah, yeah.
Or Nation Divided. So, if we want to talk about, I can't see anything. The glasses I wear basically get me to being able to drive legally. It does make reenacting interesting.
Say the least.
Yeah.
I think we all took turns once looking through your glasses and we're like, wow.
Yeah. Glasses during the Civil War. Glasses refer to reading glasses. Spectacles refer to vision correcting glasses. Vision correcting glasses are very, very difficult to do without lasers. So most people who couldn't see just couldn't see, and they wouldn't have ended up in the military. Obviously, that's no fun. So, but most glasses during the Civil War were mostly magnification glasses for reading.
Yep.
I can go off on a tangent, off halfway related to what somebody said there.
Oh, absolutely. What type of music do y'all like?
I listen to. I grew up on my dad's music mostly. I listened to Led Zeppelin and everything like that. So pretty much everything that we still regard as being good that came out of the 60s and 70s and 80s. I know there was a lot of bad stuff too, but we don't see it anymore. So all the good stuff from then. My wife has dragged me into modern music. I listen to some modern metal. And honestly, I'm past the point of paying attention to genre. If I like it, I'll listen to it, and if I don't, then I won't.
Fair. I'll just go through my Spotify. How about that? So, Rammstein, Whitechapel, Ghost, Joji, Retrowave, Depeche Mode, Tyler Childers, Slipknot, System of a Down, Post Malone, Alice in Chains, Bluegrass, Kaleo, Tool, Metallica, Stone Sour, Arch Enemy, As Blood Runs Black, Nirvana, Hans Zimmer, Winds of Plague, Arcona, 60s music, Jesse Stewart, Weird Al, Perfect Circle, All Shall Perish, Anthrax, Slayer, Apocalyptica, Barnes Courtney, Bob Seger, Carnifex, Classical Music, CCR, Dropkick Murphys, Flogging Molly, Ennio Morricone, Frank Sinatra, Jimi Hendrix, Johnny Cash, Johnny Horton, Leonard Skinner, Macklemore, Mastodon, Ozzy Osbourne, Led Zeppelin, REM, Pussifer, Subvision, Swing, The Beatles, The Cure, The Eagles, The Native Howl, The Offspring. Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Everything that's good.
Yeah.
I sing in a jazz choir at the university here, and I sang in a jazz choir in high school. So I also listened past tense to jazz music too.
Let's see. Oh, Red Runner. Any idea where you can pick up an officer's haversack? There used to be a lot of places. I would try Paul Lopez of American Civil War knapsacks. That's where I got mine from. He still might be in business doing those, so check him out. Mark, is it true that the sharpshooters didn't drill as all they did was practice shooting? False. Whoever told you that is lying to you. They were masters of skirmish drill. That is solely their bread and butter. The rest of company drill, however, they weren't the best at. Charles Maddox from the 17th Maine, who ran the 1st Regiment Sharpshooters for a while, complained about their company and regimental drill, but no, they were heavily drilled in skirmish drill. So, no, they did drill. They did drill. Can you see a wall in front of your face? My friend can't even see a huge brick wall 2 inches from his face. Not even kidding.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at too.
You can see shapes at least. I mean, you can't see, like shapes. 1, 2, but, you can at least see there's a fist or a hand up.
I won't run into anything, but I would probably trip over anything and everything.
Yeah. Nation Divided is so out of spectrum because there was a Gatling gun at Little Round Top, and that is not period correct. Yeah.
Yeah, they were trying to make a video game.
The uniforms look handsome, and I can see why men took pictures to give to their loved ones. Oh, absolutely. Civil War, especially like a fully dressed dress uniform, officer or enlisted, looks fantastic. Yeah. They knew how to dress.
Yeah, back when the appearance of a uniform on parade ground was secondary to its effect was primary, and its effectiveness in battle was the secondary thought.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong. I like that music question. That was a good one.
I saw somebody talk about getting a choir together inside our company. We do that sometimes. We've got a couple people who can read music well enough to sing with somebody else at least. So I'll bring period music or not so period music written out, and we have fun with that sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's always a good time. In fact, you found out, was it last year, that Where Did You Sleep Last Night, mostly made popular by Nirvana's Unplugged performance, was actually a cover of Leadbelly.
Yeah, who recorded it in the 1930s and said he learned it from his grandfather. So, yeah.
So War
song from the South, easily.
So, pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I had a history professor from Notre Dame argue with me on that. And I told him they did drill, and he told me to reread my history. Yeah, just because he's a professor doesn't mean anything. He can definitely be wrong.
Yeah. Historians look at things very, very broadly.
Yeah.
So they'll often miss out on little details that archaeologists or, for example, people who have to do unit-specific research.
Or
he probably saw one time the comment that Maddox made and just broadly applied it to the sharpshooters as a whole on all drill.
Yeah. Favorite Civil War movie?
Is there more than one right answer?
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, yeah, Gettysburg had its issues. So did Gods and Generals. So did Glory. But all
three of them,
they're all great movies. I will still happily binge watch them.
Yeah.
Especially the director's cuts. Why did the sharpshooters drill more than the average Union soldier? Skirmish drill. That, every regiment had to master skirmish drill because you need to throw out skirmishers. But the sharpshooters took skirmish drill and then made it a completely different entity or drill than it already was. They mastered it, they perfected it, and they modified it to their liking. So,
yeah, skirmish drill is so difficult and time consuming. Just from the perspective of a reenactor, it feels very vulnerable to be out in front of everyone with nobody near you. Yeah. So you have to be very proficient to not just lose all unit coherency and fall apart.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous and very scary. Even to reenact it, it's very scary.
Mainly because if you're going against another force that doesn't really know what they're doing, then yeah, it's also not quite as fun.
Yeah.
I saw an odd mobile Civil War game, and there was a flintlock right on the front. Ew. Why?
Yeah. Definitely didn't belong right on the front. No. Just because, yes, flintlocks were used early in the war.
Very early.
But it doesn't belong on the very front of a video game cover.
Yeah. Gods and Generals is Confederate propaganda, to my opinion. I could see that.
Yeah, it has a very South-heavy bend to it.
Yeah, it only focuses, like Chamberlain, really. That's about it. And even then, it's minimal.
Yeah. That's a very, I think I can agree that it is very Confederate supportive, as opposed to the much more neutral stance that Gettysburg takes.
Yeah.
Of course, nobody complains when Glory is Union heavy, so.
Mark, we use Casey's. First and second regiment would have been drilled in solely Casey's manual. There's, in fact, one or two original Casey's manuals out there that are signed by a sharpshooter. Well, sharpshooters, I should say. It wasn't just one. So, Hardee's I can understand because Casey's is just basically a copy of Hardee's, just simplified.
And written by Union General.
Yeah, and Scott's was definitely pre-war.
The enemy's drill book.
Yeah. Yeah, Scott's was definitely pre-war. I know some regiments did use Scott's, but almost everyone adapted Hardee's or Casey's at some point. So, interesting. Very interesting. I'm cleaning through the house and I found a bugle that somewhat looks like a period bugle. How likely would a reenactment company want something like that? Depends on the company. Obviously, as a sharpshooter company, yeah, very odd. But hey, as a sharpshooter company, they did all their maneuvers to the bugle. There was no drummers and no fifers with the first and second. So, someone like us, yeah, we would love to find a bugle and have someone play it.
We do have a bugler, but he can't make. He hasn't been able to make most of our events.
Prior commitments and the like.
Yeah.
Has your unit ever been used in television/media yet? I know some reenactor groups were used in the Civil War movies and have popped up in documentaries and dramas too. Not yet. However, we do have a member of our company who does Little Bighorn reenacting as W.W. Cook on Custer's staff, and he's been in documentaries, so he's in contact with people like that. So maybe, you might see us on PBS someday. That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be cool. We were in a couple little art films.
Yeah, a couple
out of the Seattle film schools.
Yeah, but nothing documentary wise. And Micronation, you have a good one, and see you later. Yeah, it'd be cool to do a sharpshooter documentary.
That would be. Yeah, I remember one of the. We've been in two little art films. In the first one, I don't know why you would bother getting reenactors over extras if you're not going to listen to what the reenactors have to say about how things would have been done.
Or how things would have been worn.
Yeah. And that's about all I have to say about it.
Yeah. Oh, well, that guy had his own vision.
He had his vision.
Misguided, but it was a vision, I guess.
Yeah. Never let history get in the way of a good story.
Yeah. See, apart from reenacting, but I'm 13 and it's fun to reenact. I'm a part of reenacting. Yeah, it's absolutely fun to reenact. Been doing it going into my 12th year, so.
Yeah. I think I've been doing it. I think this is 10 years for me.
Damn, really?
Mm-hmm.
There's no way we've known each other for 10 years.
Yeah, I was in middle school. I was in 8th grade, so I would have been 12. And that was last year we had Spokane Falls.
Oh my god, that's right. Yeah, because I remember you wandering into camp saying, "Hi, I'm James. I'm new to reenacting." They were just like, "Oh, hey, what's up?"
Yeah.
God, that was 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. All right. Wow, 10 years goes by fast.
Yeah. It really can.
Oh wow, now I'm getting all nostalgic and like, God, 10 years. What has happened in 10 years?
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I went back to my middle school and did a little talk with them. But that school got my own university stuff got in the way of that. Maybe I'll start picking it up again.
Oh, hell yeah.
It was pretty cool. That my history teacher in middle school was an awesome guy.
They usually are.
Yeah.
Let's see. Are you guys in communication with other Berdan companies across the country? Some of them, yeah, I keep in contact with some of them. Company B, oddly enough, I actually have only run into those guys once, and that was at the 150th Gettysburg. So definitely need to reach out and share resources and stuff. Sucks that reenactments are being canceled because of the corona. Yeah.
Yeah. We were going to go back east in the first week of May to do Chancellorsville, and that was going to be really cool.
Yep, they plan on holding it next year though, so.
Yeah. Which is, honestly, I'll be in a better place to get better kit, and actually I won't be getting back in time for an exam next year. How about that?
Sacrifices.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. So I guess I'll be in a better place for it next year anyway.
Hell yeah. And so will Severson, so.
Yep.
Apparently one of my friends is watching this, kind of just lurking in the background, not commenting. Like, God, we're caught up in the chat again.
Yep.
This is fun. So yeah, probably about, almost. Oh, you're heading out, Brett. So yeah, we'll definitely talk and see you later. Yeah, probably about 18 more minutes. We'll keep the stream going for. So I gotta go get dinner. Matt, we're hoping to do the linen cartridge one. That's more First Sergeant Kep's animal, so I'm sure he'll do something with it. And Mark, yeah, absolutely. You're definitely not wrong about meeting up with fellow sharpshooters. Plus, I make some sharpshooter gear, help the rest of you guys look awesome with knapsacks and the like, so.
Best knapsacks on the market.
Hey. I try. I think right now only knapsacks on the market. I don't know if Paul Lopez is making Berdan packs anymore, so.
So you're kind of like Walmart.
I'm kind of like Walmart, yeah. More or less. I mean, hell, soon, once I get that pattern perfected, I'll be making the period sharpshooter correct one-piece leather leggings as well, so. Those will be a lot easier to make than knapsacks. Is First Sergeant and Mrs. First Sergeant doing okay during this quarantine? Oh yeah, I spoke with First Sergeant the other day. He's just extremely bored. So he's just trying to find projects to do around the house, around the property, and in the shop.
Jared bored is never. It's not safe.
And see, that's why it's a good thing that you and I live across Washington from him, and then you and I live almost 2 hours apart from each other.
Yeah.
Because if the three of us were together as a group, that would be amazing and awful at the same time, because we would get so much done but nothing done at the same time.
Yeah, I could tell he was bored because he sent everyone in the company some tarred cloth and patterns to make ration bags, like he talked about in the video recently.
That was a fun little project too.
He's looking for something to do, apparently.
Yeah. I'm getting my knapsack in 2 weeks. Pretty pumped. Hell yeah. The website has a lot of non-related ads. Okay. Good to know. I'll let the guys know. We have 6 in our company. Yeah, please do. If you guys need to add me on Facebook where I have the pictures for it and everything, feel free to add me on there and I can chat more with you guys about it. For the mess tins, is there any updates on the best place to get them, or are they still scarce due to the lack of tinsmiths? There is one place, currently with the coronavirus, some health issues on his part and everything. He's actually making mess tins for our group. And then just a delivery issue. He's not currently taking any orders until he gets the right tin and this whole coronavirus thing blows over, because tin is a non-essential thing to be delivered to a private residence. So
Didn't he have to go through hell and high water to get the last tin delivery, and they like sent him the wrong thing, and then he sent it back, and they sent him the right thing, but it was all rusted through, and he sent it back.
Yep, and now he's waiting on the unrusted stuff to come in. So it's fun. Yeah, but Matt, once it gets up and going, I'll definitely make a video about the sharpshooter mess tins. We kind of breeze over it in our knapsack video, but I want to do one specifically on the mess kit itself.
They're pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I've used mine camping in general before, and they're a lot of fun. Whew. I don't know why I'm yawning.
Because I am.
Stop yawning, then it's contagious. I'm not tired, I promise. It's always fun waiting for the chat to catch up.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm the only sharpshooter at Civil War events. Yeah, we've definitely been...
We've had our lean years.
Yes, when it was only 4 of us out on the field, and now there's 12, 14, sometimes, if we get everyone, 16.
20 on paper.
Yeah.
For what that's worth.
We get enough people on the field, that's going to be terrifying.
Last year, we were the largest company.
Yeah, which was...
The largest union company.
Which was really weird. But also a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I hear a cat meowing at my door. How are you guys? How's your day going? It's going. It's been a pretty solid day. Just for me, working on knapsacks, doing a live stream with James, talking with you guys.
Mine's going good. I don't know. It feels like I have a bigger workload from school now that everything is shut down than I did before. I stayed up way too late last night writing D&D campaign. So,
hey, I mean, you got the time to do it, might as well, right?
Yeah. So I've been taking it easy today. I barely got up in time for this. And then I'm going to make some bread, because that's always fun.
Always fun.
Yeah. Tastes way better.
Yeah. And Mark, yeah, definitely look forward to hearing from you. Look forward to seeing your email. So take care, have a good one, and don't get the corona. See, Rev Jeremy, were the sharpshooters on average? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to read it.
Go for it.
Were the sharpshooters on average more fit than the typical soldier due to their respective responsibilities? Well, the typical soldier was already pretty fit. The only issue there would be nutrition. And then the sharpshooters would have been, at first, more fit on top of that. But then as the war went on, just more and more physically broken.
Yeah.
Yeah. The discharge due to disability rates are astounding.
Oh, absolutely.
Easily 80% of the people who enlisted in at least Company D were discharged for disability. Somewhere around that number.
Yeah, sounds about right.
People either couldn't keep up to begin with or kept up until their bodies fell apart. And I think I looked at it one time. I think it was not more than 10 or 15 people served through the whole war in the company.
That's surprising. Yeah, I mean, what, Matthews would have been one of the only ones.
And then, yeah, and he was discharged technically before the end of the war because they didn't need any more lieutenants in the regiment they were sending him to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very few served through the war just because their bodies couldn't handle it.
God, that's brutal. Brutal war, brutal times. I feel like that more with college being online, there's more classwork as a result. Do you all have that same conundrum? Yeah, taking online classes myself. I feel busy.
My school switched to online, and I'm not sure if it's more workload or if I just am not disciplined enough to do it on my own. Maybe both.
For me, it's both. I won't deny that.
Yeah, I'm definitely keeping up better in my classes that are live versus my classes that are pre-recorded.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that because they're more engaging. You actually kind of have to pay attention.
Yeah.
Or try to pay attention more.
But you have to be there.
Yeah. Absolutely. So hey, we're not the only ones.
Yeah.
What was the sharpshooters' first battle? It was a skirmish during the Peninsula Campaign with the 1st Regiment. It was just a company of sharpshooters out foraging blackberries, and they came around a bend in the road, and there was some Confederate skirmishers, and
probably for blackberries.
Yeah, probably over blackberries. But an actual battle, per se, would have been the Siege of Yorktown during the Peninsula Campaign in '62. Not the Siege of Yorktown with Cornwallis, so. The more famous of Yorktowns.
The 2nd Regiment, I think it was 2nd Manassas, was the first real fight they got in.
Sounds about right.
Might have been Antietam. I don't remember which one's first.
2nd Manassas is first.
Jeez, you'd think that I'd know.
With so many battles during the Civil War and how many engagements the sharpshooters were in, I mean... Munson's Hill. Hey, Dan's on.
Munson's Hill.
Of course Dan would know that.
I don't know anything about Munson's Hill.
It's been a while for me. Oh, God.
Okay, so that was the little skirmish during the Peninsula Campaign, 12th October, 61.
There we go. So even before Company D was mustered in. Well, Company D, 2nd U.S., I should say.
Yeah. The battle doesn't have its own Wikipedia page.
It's under Wikipedia.
It's on Wikipedia, just on Munson's Hill. Location and name, history, talks about the battle, and then modern era. It is now a shopping mall.
Oh, lovely. How often would the sharpshooters carry their flags into battle? Every battle. If you have to rally on your regiment, things like that, they would be there. At least that's to my understanding. So,
General practice is that, at least.
Yeah, general practice, but
It's not what they talk about in the diaries, so it's kind of hard to say.
yeah, unless Gettysburg, there is that one
Yeah.
good piece of hard evidence there. I remember in your pet peeves video, your unit was criticized about doing drill and not following unlawful commands. Does that still happen? In some aspects, yes. We try to portray the sharpshooter mindset of we are sharpshooters, not your frontline infantry. So sometimes we'll bitch and moan about guard duty or other fun little nuances of military life.
But yeah, when the 79th New York isn't there, it's weird being the only people doing drill.
I mean, the 20th does drill, so
yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. Antietam and the Wilderness. Dan, I need to get you on one of these live streams one of these times.
It's really cool.
That would be. I mean, we talk enough about other things, playing Daisy and stuff, so we might as well get you on one of these live streams. It'd be kind of cool. Chat about it later.
So Christopher's commenting, you would think that they would be not trying to blow their cover. Even the sharpshooters, light infantry, didn't really think like that. Green was useful for individuals not being seen, but as a whole, entire units wouldn't generally try to disguise their presence. If anything, you want to look as big as you can.
Yep, intimidation.
Yeah. So if you don't have your colors, then your own people can't find you, which can be dangerous.
But I don't like to be seen. That's why I hide behind you guys. And I just realized this frock looks like I am absolutely tiny in it right now on the screen.
Yeah.
But it's also tight against my back, so go figure.
Are you just sitting weird in it?
That too. I'm also like really slouched and hunched, but I just realized that I'm like I look deflated in this thing. Again, ADD.
Yeah.
All right, about 2 more minutes of the live stream, and then we'll probably be hopping off, so we can, or at least so I can eat. I don't know what James has planned for the rest of his evening.
I should probably eat.
Food is good, you know.
It's good.
Especially Mandy's cooking.
Oh yeah.
I miss it. So it hasn't killed me yet. Actually, no food has ever killed me.
Nothing has ever killed you yet. Hence.
Do you guys implement a platoon or squad system? We do squads, since we're not quite there yet for platoons.
Yeah, when we split up, first sergeant and the second sergeant, speakerman, will basically, they're on opposite ends of the line. So we just split in the middle and
do work that way.
Follow the sergeants.
Yep.
And then we had 2 corporals as well to help even out the command and control, so the sergeant doesn't have to pay attention to his whole line at all times.
It's pretty effective.
It's worked really nicely.
Especially with some of the other companies we go up against.
Mm.
It's good to have that second pair of eyes of knowing what's going on. Just so people don't get a musket going off in their face.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah, a very interesting situation. But anyways, guys, it's 5 o'clock. at least our time, so we're gonna be hopping off here. But it was awesome chatting with you guys. Thank you for the awesome questions. I definitely need to get James on live streams more because, while doing it alone is fun, it's always fun having someone like James on. So
Yeah.
So yes, from my side of
we live relatively close to each other, and I'm surprised it took us this long to get around to it. And we are not even doing it in person. So
yeah, one of these times it'll be done in person with the two of us, or who knows, maybe we can get a group of us doing a live stream. That'd be interesting due to the limited space from my streaming setup. But hey, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, we will chat with you all later in the next live stream. So stay safe. Don't get corona, including the beer, because that stuff is disgusting. And yeah, we'll talk with you all later. So have a good one.